What up? Welcome back into another episode of the MLB Swing for the Fences show here on Friday afternoon. Big Friday slate, 10 games to talk about. And you know what, Steve? We're not gonna tilt the Mets putting up double digits against a lefty starter. You know, we're over it from Wednesday night, right?
Speak for yourself. Speak for yourself.
A little painful, honestly, watching the Mets destroy, frankly, a much better pitcher than who did the Mets face? Andrew Heaney? Yeah, not good. Stats.
Yep.
I think you get the reference. Steve and I were all over the Mets on Wednesday night. Did not work out as we planned, but happy to have you back on the show here on Friday. How are you doing on this Friday afternoon?
Yeah, I'm doing well, man. It's been a big week for a lot of us. It's been an RPS week, man. So I know you had a big hit. What's tonight? Today's Friday. So what was it? Tuesday, Wednesday? You had a big one Tuesday?
Honestly, it feels like RPS crew coordinator is shipping like every slate, right? JVC, Boynton, I know you had a big win. I've had some big days. Members have had awesome days, of course. And yeah, you love to see it. Nothing better than opening up the app when you're kind of competing and you see you're competing with like 100 other RPS logos, right? Nothing better than that stats.
Yeah, it was good. I mean, you know, taking down the 555 with JT right on my ass or our ass last night was not bad. So if it was going to be one of us, that's a good thing. So yeah, I mean, it's been some week. K Fallick hit a big one this week as well. So I mean, it's literally just about every one of the coordinators in there. So it's been a monster week.
You know, we've been doing well when you kind of like just forget.
When you forget someone did, yeah.
Yeah, because it's every day. Steve, I know you took down the 121 the day. Was that Wednesday?
It was Tuesday night. It was the day that we were on the show because it was the super tough pitching slate. We kind of talked through it on the show and got to like Jonathan Cannon and the Braves guy and the Alec Marsh fade who put up -4 at like 65% in that contest.
We've seen a bunch of chalk pitchers bust recently. It doesn't mean it's always going to happen, of course, but it is a drum that I bang often on the show where I just, especially the expensive chalk pitchers, you just need so much to go right, in my opinion, to make it worth it. We'll, of course, discuss some of those guys on this slate. I do think there are some, good, expensive chalk pitchers. That doesn't necessarily mean they're good DFS plays. So we'll get into all that. We do got 10 games to talk about. This show always runs overtime anyway. So without further ado, let's dive into it, boys. We've got Atlanta and the New York Yankees up first on this slate. Kind of a marquee game. I don't know if there's marquee games in the MLB regular season, but if there was, this would certainly be one of them in Yankee Stadium. Slight potential rain issues here. I do think it'll be fine, but something to consider. This game, a dead toss-up in the betting market. Carlos Rodon, Chris Sale, two lefties going at it. Two guys who have had their ups and downs over the last couple of years, but two guys who are absolutely rolling this season, Steve. Two good offenses, too. I know the Braves have been disappointing for most of the season, but they are coming alive a little bit. I think you'll see pretty heavy ownership on both of these pitchers. And we do kick it off with a very interesting game here. I think there's a lot of ways to play this one, but I'll throw it to you, Steve, for your thoughts. Rodon, Sale, Yankees, and Braves.
Yeah, people are talking about comeback player of the year for Sale. I think this might be just his flat-out best season that he's had, as a pro. I think you can maybe even argue that. Mowed down basically every lineup that he's faced.
I mean, he's going to win the Cy Young if he stays healthy, I think.
Yeah. Except for that one random Oakland start, he's just mowed everyone. Like you said, it's a big time series in the Bronx. Big week for the Yankees overall. They played the O's for 3 or 4 games, and then the Braves in the same week. I think Sale's an awesome play here. We were talking a bit in Discord earlier. The lineup that the Yankees put out, I don't want to call it a give up lineup, but after a big series. A couple guys getting a day off. I know Glaber got hurt yesterday. So Jahmai Jones, I think, is hitting 5th for this Yankee team tonight. Awesome spot for Chris Sale, I think, in a perceived tough spot on paper. But Sale, still has a 7-ish strikeout prop. His ERA is under 3, and his estimators are even lower than that. 2.48 xFIP, 2.57 Sierra. Both of those lead the slate. I do prefer Sale over Cease here. I just have more confidence in the level of pitcher that he is right now, despite the tougher spot on paper. Rodon, I think, is super interesting to talk about here, DC. Just like I think he ends up maybe even the highest owned pitcher on the slate just because of the strikeout prop.
Yeah,
been awesome at home all season, but it's a matchup against the Braves. Like this could go south. But yeah, so I'm kind of undecided on what to do with Rodon. I'm certainly going to be under the field right now. Sabres got him 32%. There's not a chance I play 30% Rodon at home against the Braves here. And I've been playing a lot of Rodon coming into this. Like, he's been in good form the last month or so. It feels like a bad spot to be on the popular Rodon here personally.
Yeah. Listen, I toot my own horn when I get a pitcher right. Certainly plenty of those. Flaherty, Luis Gil outside of yesterday. But Rodon has been one that I haven't been on. I've missed the boat on Carlos Rodon. Have not played him much this season. He's been a good play, a lot of slates. So I have missed out on that one. You talk about this Yankees lineup stats. They do have Soto and Judge in there. Soto, he had the elbow scare. That was 2 weeks ago now? Missed 3 or 4 games. He has 1 extra base hit in the 10 games since then. Steve, we've talked about kind of waiting to see it with Juan Soto. He's still drawing walks. Obviously, it doesn't affect his batting eye. But I don't, again, there's actually numbers you could look at for this, like bat path, swing speed, that kind of thing. Honestly, I haven't done it for Juan Soto, but I'm a little bit concerned about him. A little bit concerned about Aaron Judge playing through this hand injury as well, though he did homer yesterday, so probably no concern there, I guess. But it's just an interesting spot, I think, for Chris Sale, who he's one of those pitchers. We talk about it on the show a lot. I do think Chris Sale is capable of mowing down any lineup, any hitter. I haven't played hardly any pitchers against the Yankees this season, but I'm considering it here. What are you doing? Stats, I know, obviously looking at the props and all that. What do they say, and what are you doing with Sale and Rodon?
Let me give you the prop market. I think Boynton kind of touched on it. With Sale, just over 7 Ks is the prop. It's pretty heavily juiced, so it's about 7.2 Ks. Rodon's got a 7K prop, so those two guys are the highest on the slate outside of Cease, right? Who's at 7.1. So the betting market's kind of looking for this to be a pitcher's game. Both of these guys looking to go close to 6 innings in the betting markets. Rodon to give up just slightly more runs here than Sale. When you look at it from a game theory standpoint, I think you have to consider the Brave stacks here much more than you would the Yankee stacks. I kind of like. I don't think this is going to really be a game that a lot of people are going to focus on offenses. And of both sides of this game, I think the Braves. I think you're getting decent prices on the Braves lineup. And this is a situation we had yesterday. We talked about JT was right there with me yesterday in the 5-5-5, and we both gave out Baltimore in our core. Mm-hmm. And it was a similar type of spot. Like, it's not necessarily that I think the Braves are going to go off and score 17 runs here tonight. I didn't think Baltimore would do that, but I just think sometimes you're getting a situation, you're getting a favorable ownership situation with the probability of enough runs being scored by a team that it's worthwhile to kind of get over on them. So I wasn't huge. I didn't have a huge percentage. I think I maybe had, I was in the low teens, my overall percentage of Baltimore yesterday. I was overwhelmingly long the Dodger stacks, yet it still panned out for me. I cashed 1 million lineups. I mean, Dodgers just hit a couple of home runs, which kind of helped, but and then lucky enough to have one of my better, I think the best lineup in my 150 was in the 5-5-5. So I mean, that kind of helps things out a little bit, but
nice.
yeah, sometimes you get lucky with that, but it's the same sort of logic. And I think you got the potential here with the Braves to be able to put some runs up on the board. So I'm much more leaning towards Brave stacks. I think you'll get some leverage on the field. Like you said, I think we're going to get Rodon at pretty high ownership. which is a similar situation we had yesterday with Heel. So, it's the same team. You feel like, I don't want to target the same team again and with the same strategy. But I think you don't have to get crazy. I think my point is in 150 lineups, certainly you don't have to be, you don't need 50% of your lineups being the Braves. If you just get in the low teens, I think that's enough to give you enough leverage on the field. And then if you're playing like a 20-man, something like that, get yourself 5 Brave stacks in there, I think.
Yeah. Also, DC, with the long series against the O's and, all the scoring, their bullpen is not in the best shape coming in too, I think. So, if they can get to Rodon, could be a nice night for the Braves on a Friday yet again.
Yeah, agree with all that. Really, really good points from both of you. And honestly, on this show, especially, most of the plays recommendations we make, I don't know, 90% plus are based on the numbers from all three of us, even if we're all doing it in slightly different ways. But a non-number stake, and I've been saying it all season on Chris Sale, he just looks fucking nasty, does Chris Sale. In my opinion, more so than Rodon and more so than almost any other pitcher in MLB, where you just watch him pitch. And it's seen, every batter that comes up to the plate, I don't care if it's Juan Soto or Aaron Judge, Sale's got a good chance of striking that guy out. And again, he could give up power here, right? Judge, Stanton, 2 of the best lefty mashers in all of baseball. Of course, Soto, one of the best hitters in all of baseball. But Chris Sale's not afraid of these guys, right? I do think Sale's safety is not as high as it normally is. I think his upside is essentially the same. I think you could easily get 10 plus strikeouts in this matchup. Steve, seems like you agree.
Yeah, and just given the context too, this is, I think, the worst the Yankees lineup has been the entire season.
Yeah, they had a game without Soto and Judge in there, but I totally get what you're saying. In terms of the back half of it, it's brutal today.
Yeah, well, plus the at least possible lingering things with both Judge and Soto and Jahmai Jones hitting 5th.
Yeah, we are in on the Sale train. I've been spending down and pitching a lot this season. I always do, but a lot recently. Honestly, it's been successful, but I do very much have interest in Mr. Chris Sale tonight. Might be rolling out him on my main team. We'll see. 9 more games to talk about. That's a lot of time on one game. The show tends to do that. Let's get to Boston and Cincinnati next. Almost 100 degrees in Cincinnati tonight. Humid. Really no winds whatsoever. It's gonna be. They're gonna be sweating in Cincinnati tonight. That much is for sure. We got Cutter Crawford and Andrew Abbott in 9 total. Honestly, I'm a little surprised this number isn't even higher given the weather in Cincinnati. Obviously, one of the best home run ballparks in all of baseball. Both these pitchers have been okay this season. They've been solid. They have, both of them, some strikeout upside from time to time. I think Andrew Abbott, I haven't played him too much, but I think he's got decent. We play a lot of lefties against this Boston Red Sox team. Again, he's another pitcher. I think it could totally end in disaster, but I wouldn't be so shocked to see Andrew Abbott finish with 7, 8, 9 strikeouts. I haven't looked at the prop. I'm sure stats will have that for us. And then Cutter Crawford. We've seen this with a number of Red Sox pitchers have faltered a little bit recently, but he's been good overall. We've obviously seen this Reds team be one to pick on in terms of strikeouts. So this is a game, Steve, where I think both these stacks are absolutely in play, but I wouldn't be surprised if one of these pitchers put up a big score either, despite the weather. Listen, you got to, even when it's 100 degrees and humid, you still got to, hit a ball well to get it over the fence. And if you don't do that, it doesn't matter. So I think both of these pitchers are more interesting than the market is giving them credit for. We talked about this in Discord, Steve. I don't think you have my same take, but talk to us, Reds and Boston Red Sox here.
No, we usually agree on the show, but I'm going to be on the bats on both sides here. Just playing the weather, right? It's such an awesome spot for hitters in a park that is already good, and a park that we don't get to play too often on main slates. Like you said, 2 decent arms on the hill, but 2 definitely gettable arms, especially on the Cincy side. Abbott, just such a fly ball guy. I think that this could be like a huge scoring game on both sides here. Like you said, Boston hasn't been as good against lefties. They definitely strike out. So, I get that. And I think Stats has a bet on the K prop here too. But they can strike out and do damage in this spot. The lineup outside of Duran, O'Neill, and Devers is dirt cheap. So I think Boston will be the more popular side. I think it should be the more popular side. I wouldn't ignore the Reds here, though. I think the Reds are going to be under-owned in this spot at home. We've talked on a couple of shows, DC. This Reds lineup with both Fraley and Friedel back is just a lot more dangerous against right-handed pitching. They're both in the lineup tonight. I really – and their prices have finally come down. So I really like the top 5 on the Reds here. I'll probably use them as secondary stacks, just seeing how they fit. Really don't want to go to the bottom of the order too much for Cincy, but I'm on the bats on both sides here. And I bet the over 9.
Yeah, I actually like the over despite having some interest in the pitchers. It's the pricing, it's the strikeout upside, it's the ownership. Again, I think both these pitchers could absolutely be in for a disaster, but I do think one general mistake that DFS players make in baseball is looking too much toward the median outcomes instead of what the top 10% outcome could be. And I think the top 10% outcome for both these pitchers is pretty good. Let's go to you, Stats. What do you see, Reds and Red Sox?
Yeah, I mean, I think you nailed it. I like what you said there, because if you're winning GPPs, you're not getting there with the median average, right? It's got to be do these guys
doesn't
have
matter
some
if they
upside?
give up 2 or 5 home runs, you're not getting there anyway.
Exactly. So I like. I'm glad you reminded me, Boynton, because I wanted to give out some some of these K props last week. I actually didn't have any on the Friday show, which is crazy with all those games, but I do have Abbott on the over 5.5 today, and the K props. I think I'm 14-1 in the last 3 days on the K props, so they've been really crushing it. So I mean, projections in the market, they're pretty similar. 5.7 Ks for Crawford. Market's looking for about 5.6 Ks out of Abbott. So I see what you guys are saying. I mean, obviously you kind of like, you just look at this one and you like the offense in this game. And then something that DC said before was he would think this would be an even higher total, right? So that always kind of scares me too, because I think this would be a higher total as well. So that's kind of giving me a little bit more of a signal to kind of jump on the pitchers a little bit here. And I think of the 2 pitchers, I like Crawford the most between the 2, even though I've got the over on the 5.5 Ks. So just let me see where I've got them in the market. So I had, I think the market, or what Sabre's looking for, is about 10% on Crawford. So I'm not going crazy. I'm going to be, I think if you can get to 15% on Crawford, 10% on Abbott, just because I really think the upside, because of the strikeouts and the amount of Ks both of these teams are capable of accumulating. I think you've got upside in this game, and you've got nice leverage. I just think the ownership is going to be way too high on the bats, at least on the Boston side of this game. So I think getting some Abbott, I think, gives you a little bit of leverage against those stacks. And I want to be under. I'm not going to be in the 20% on these batters. I mean, I don't know if that's going to be accurate or not. What Sabre's got, some of these guys in the 20s. I've got to get under the market on those guys on the slate. So I think this is a game where we kind of look to the opposite of what we may typically be looking at, which is offense here. I'm going to get under Boston, and then, not crazy with the pitchers, 10 to 15% on both pitchers.
Yeah, I mean, what'd you say Abbott's K prop was? 6?
It's 5. They're both 5 points, 5.5, but they translate to about 5.7 and 5.6 for Abbott. I
mean, that's a big number, right? For a 8K 3% owned pitcher. I mean, that's my point with Abbott. I know he gives up a lot of home runs, and but again, you're chasing upside if you're trying to win a GPP. I think Abbott, both of these pitchers have it. Steve, are you convinced? Stats is kind of on my side here. You called me crazy earlier today for mentioning possibly playing some Andrew Abbott. Are you on board now, Steve? I'm guessing no, but maybe.
I'm not on board just because I'm not looking for more pitchers. I'm already trying to pare down my list from what I currently have. Yeah. So I'm currently not in the market for more pitchers in my run today.
Well, at least you were listening. You were listening to what we had to say. I do appreciate that. A good contrast to Mr. Travis Mangone. Let's get to Toronto and Cleveland up next. Another hot game. Man, I love baseball in the summer. To me, this is how baseball is meant to be played. 85, 90 degrees, the ball's flying, everybody can hit home runs. I just think it's more fun in this environment. And it's going to be a good one in Cleveland. Like I said, 85, 60% humidity. I keep talking about the Cleveland lefty power. Anyone, lefties in Cleveland anyway. Have you guys seen I don't have the link, but they changed the stadium and the wind direction. Steve, I think you sent it to me. But the one, it's hard to find an unrealized edge in DFS. One that I think is still out there, and I'm apologizing for anyone who's on it because now more people know.
Now you're just telling 700 people this.
Yeah, but lefty power in Cleveland is really, really good. If you can hit home runs out to right field, you don't have to be a lefty, but anyone that can hit home runs out to right field is a good play, especially in this weather. We've got two, I think, pretty bad pitchers, two of the worst pitchers on the slate, in my opinion. Yariel Rodriguez pitching for the Blue Jays, Carlos Carrasco pitching for the Guardians. This is another game. I'm on the over on the 9 total that's posted, and I think we're going to see some runs in this game. Cleveland is one of my favorite stacks tonight. Steve, what are you doing with Blue Jays and the Guardians?
Yeah, what they did is they removed a couple of huge signage advertisements in the upper deck, and now wind just comes right through it from behind the plate going.
It's made a noticeable. It just seems like a fact, right? It's not a theory at this point. Yeah.
Yeah, I like the bats here. I lean Cleveland too. I even though we get Cookie Carrasco, I am just terrified of this Cleveland bullpen. Every time I try to stack against them, they just shove it up my ass after the 5th inning. So I'll probably keep Toronto in the pool, but mostly for mini stacks, specifically the bottom of the order, super cheap. We got Orelvis Martinez, I think, making his first start. He got called up. He's 2K minimum at shortstop if you need a cheapie there. So my main focus will be on Cleveland bats here, the lefties, and no arms for me on either side.
Yeah, it doesn't really mean much, but a few of my biggest wins DFS-wise have been stacking the Cleveland. Actually, I've been playing this game so long that I think they're the Indians back then, but they're the Guardians now. Stats, what are you doing with Guardians and Blue Jays here? I think this is a really good spot for bats. What are you doing with it?
Definitely a good spot for bats. I told you, Yariel Rodriguez, he's coming back off the injury, and that's he's the good friend of one of my buddies down here. So he told him he's going 60, 70 pitches tonight. And so he just can't, he feels good, but they just want to limit him. And he's actually going to, I think he's going to be a pretty good pitcher. He's a K guy. His props in the K market they're looking at 3 strikeouts on someone throwing 60 pitches. So that's not terrible. Although we just can't use him for DFS purposes. But yeah, keep an eye on him. They're going to build. They were trying to build him up a little bit before he wound up getting the injury. So they're gonna be patient with him, and they're not going to go deep. So we don't expect many innings coming out of Toronto, and I don't think we're going to get a lot of innings out of Carrasco either. So the market doesn't feel that he's going to go deep in this game. So I think it becomes a bullpen game, and I like that. I like that for both sides of this game. With the bats, I think that's where we have to look. I think you're not playing. There's no chance you're going to play either one of these pitchers. Just there's no reason to. And I think you want to be overweight on both teams. I would agree. I'd probably be more overweight the Cleveland side of this game as opposed to the Toronto side. But I do like getting over on both. But I'll have a decent percentage of Cleveland.
Stats, you're very big in the sports betting streets, very successful there. What about a first 5 over in this game? Are there edges to be had on that type of market where?
Yeah, I mean, just from what I know with this kid, he's had a couple of good performances, and then he had that bad one. I mean, he's a young kid, and if he's on a 60-70 pitch limit, he has ability to really hold them down early. So I don't know if I necessarily want to jump on the over. I think the runs are more likely to come later in this game. But yeah, I'd be hesitant because he's the type of kid who's going to come out and just like he knows he's on a limit and he's just going to kind of let it fly. So I'd be a little hesitant necessarily to do that. But it is his first game back. But he, as you know, I mean, he's not going to say he feels terrible, but he said he feels pretty good.
Makes sense. Maybe a Cleveland money line first 5 over, something like that.
That's not bad. Yeah, it's not bad.
Could make sense, at least to me. Let's get to Seattle and Miami up next. We've got a 7.5 total, obviously a low total in this game. Steve, this is a tough one for me. I was a Trevor Rogers guy a while ago now. I don't know, 2022, 2021. But he had a run there where he was like looking like I don't want to put him in like a Scooble, Garrett Crochet, but he kind of looked like, big lefty with good stuff. But it's kind of all fallen apart for Trevor Rogers. The velocity, I did go back and look at this. It's down like 2.5 miles per hour from when he was good. And if you look at the numbers this year, it just looks rough for Trevor Rogers. Everybody watching the show, you guys know, I love playing cheap pitchers and getting the big bats. And so I wanted to like Trevor Rogers at home against a strikeout happy Mariners team. And the more I dug into Trevor Rogers, the less confident I got in this $5,400 play. Just being honest. I still think he's an okay play just because he's so cheap and he can throw 100 pitches, and sometimes it's a good park. Sometimes pitchers get lucky, but I really couldn't find much, Steve, in terms of Trevor Rogers' skills that gave me any confidence whatsoever. It would purely be a price, ballpark, and matchup play, but he does clearly have all three of those things going for him. So sometimes you just roll the dice and hope it doesn't come up snake eyes. And I don't think that's a terrible thing to do with Trevor Rogers. George Kirby, I don't play George Kirby all that often. I don't play Mariners starters on the road very often. I do think he's somewhat interesting here. He's a strike zone pounder who doesn't have much punch against him and is in a big ballpark, which is kind of what you need for George Kirby, right? You don't want him in Fenway or Coors Field or something, but in Miami against the Marlins, I think he is interesting at 9,400. I could be talked into going a lot of different ways with this game. What are you doing, Steve, with the Marlins and the Mariners?
Yeah, and we also get Bill Miller in this game too, which helps both guys here. I'm on both arms here. Kirby, the best matchup of the guys above 9K, with Sale facing the Yanks and Cease facing the Brewers, and Grayson up against Houston. Awesome park. He's thrown 6+ innings in 6 of his last 7 starts. The offense for the Marlins has been really, really bad. 8th highest strikeout rate, 26 weighted runs created plus, 26 in ISO. Over last month, he just seems like a comfy play on this.
He seems like he should be able to cruise to 20+ here, honestly.
Yeah, I usually don't like playing him like up above 9K, but he just seems super safe here to have a good outing. Rogers, you said exactly what I was going to say. You're not playing him because he's Trevor Rogers. You're playing him because he's an arm in this park against the highest strikeout rate team in baseball, with Bill Miller behind the plate. So I'm on no bats here. I like both arms. Rogers, I think you can definitely play. Is it comfortable? No, but most 5.4K pitchers are not comfortable clicks.
Yeah, I mean, we're not looking for comfortable. We're looking for the winners. And I do think Trevor Rogers has a decent chance to show up there at 5,400. I think Bill Miller calling balls and strikes behind the plate tonight is probably enough. I was kind of on the fence on both these pitchers, honestly. It's probably enough to tip me in both of these guys' directions, at least on a certain number of teams, probably getting over the field on both these guys. I'm seeing Rogers at 9% per Saber and Kirby at 20%. I like getting over on both those numbers. What are you doing here, stats, with this game?
Yeah, I agree. I'm about the definitely about the pitchers in this matchup. So, yeah, I mean, Rogers, look, he doesn't have to get you much here for 5,400. And I mean, the betting market, you're looking at, I think he's what, 5.1 Ks they're projected. I mean, he's kind of heavily juiced here to the over. I mean, if you can get me like a K per grand, that's pretty good, right?
Yeah.
That's pretty good on the
you can't ask for much more than that, honestly.
No, I mean, you're not going to see that. I mean, very rarely you're going to see something like that. So I think you have to take a shot here with Rogers at the 5,400, especially, if you're going to play any of these more expensive games, if you're going to kind of dabble with the Colorado game or whatever it is. I mean, you're going to sneak some Rogers plays into your lineups here. But I think Kirby's in a good spot as well. You talked about Miller. We always like targeting there. I do have a bet on Kirby under the 6.5, so we'll see how that goes. And it's heavily juiced to the under on his strikeouts. But yeah, I think the play here is really to go over the market on both pitchers. You're playing 150 lineups. I think you could put some Seattle stacks in there as well. And I think that's the way you play it. But if you're not playing 150, you're playing something smaller. I think you want to get Rogers in. If you're playing 20 max, I think you want to get 1 or 2 shares of Rogers into your mix.
Yeah, under 10% field ownership on Rogers. It just feels too low to me. Pitching in Miami against a strikeout-heavy team at the cheapest price point on the board is something that I'll roll the dice on. It seems like you guys are on the same page there. Let's get to KC and the Texas Rangers next. The Rangers have been ice cold with the bats. They still have a number of hitters who are pretty good hitters. Semien, Seager, Adolis Garcia, Nathaniel Lowe can hit. I think Wyatt Langford can hit. I think Jonah Heim can hit. But if you just look at the numbers over the last month or so, it's been really ugly for the Rangers. So Brady Singer, he makes some sense. I'm going to let Steve make the case for Brady Singer, who I never play. And I probably am not going to play tonight. So I will leave that to Steve. Eovaldi coming off a pretty rough start against Seattle. He's looked good for the most part this season. I think he is an okay play at 8,900. That's just a little too pricey for me against a contact-oriented Royals team. I'm not going to have a lot of this game, honestly, Steve, but it sounds like maybe you might have more interest than I do. What are you doing, Steve, with Royals and Rangers here?
Yeah, Rangers have been dreadful, man. Dead last in basically everything over last month. They need Josh Jung back badly. He just started his rehab assignment. Yeah, I'm not a guy who's played much Singer this year, but he's also been like 9K, 9,300. Now he's under 8K on the road in a big park, in a dome against a team that is really, really struggling right now. I kind of want to buy the dip on Singer. I see no one playing him here. And I think that I don't really like that much below the top, like Sales sees Kirby. Since I'm going to be low on Rodon, like between like Kirby and Rogers, I don't see too much on the slate. So I'm going to be playing some Singer here. I think his projection's too low. He is coming off 3 straight tough matchups. He faced Cleveland, Houston, and the Dodgers, I think. He has done well in soft matchups this season. And at that price tag, I really do like him here. Yeah, I mean, not a guy that I've played much, but this just seems like a spot to buy in on him here, personally. I'm not on Eovaldi. They're clearly babying him, guy who's hurt all the time. I'm not sure he's gone past 90 pitches yet this season. And the Royals just don't strike out at all. So I just don't see the upside for Eovaldi at 9K. And I'll be over on Singer, but I'm not going crazy with it.
Yeah, I expressed some interest in Eovaldi there, but I should retract it because I'm not going to play Eovaldi. I got 5 teams tonight. He won't be on any of them. I wanted to just make that clear. I know I kind of said he was interesting, but on my 5 teams, I'm not playing him at 8,900. Stats, what are you doing with Rangers and Royals here?
Yeah, the Eovaldi, I kind of liked him as well.
It's
just because I know that's the problem. It's the price. It's like they've got it. The betting markets. I'm consistently, when I look at the betting markets, every Eovaldi start, it's like the DFS market seems to be getting it right, and the betting markets seem to be getting it wrong. And I think we're in a similar situation again. I've consistently been over on Eovaldi, and it hasn't really worked for me. But I mean, we're looking at it again tonight. He's projected for one of the highest out totals on the night, so they're really looking for him to go deeper than almost every other pitcher outside of a couple.
Really, that's interesting to me, given that he's dealt with some injuries, and honestly, the Rangers have been really weird with their pitchers. Eovaldi, John Gray, I might have to hit up that under on the Eovaldi out total if that's.
Yeah, I mean it's a pretty heavily juiced to the over on the 17.5. So I mean you could probably get plus money on that under 17.5, which is not maybe not a bad bet. They're looking at 5.5 Ks, like you said. Kansas City really doesn't strike out all that much, so I agree. I mean, while I think the numbers I look at are kind of showing that he's in a good spot here, I don't know how great a spot that is. I don't love Singer either. I mean, just in my runs, I've got him a decent amount as well. I mean, I'm going to be playing both of these guys, but what's the Singer price? 7,800. I mean, I basically got him really close to who were we just talking about before? Rogers, right? At 13. I mean, he's basically projected for the same thing Rogers is.
Kirby or Rogers?
Yeah, Singer and Rogers have about the same projections in the betting market. So, it's like I've got to take a shot with Rogers at that price and not Singer. So I'm going to be probably, if I just run it pure with how the numbers look, I'll probably have a bit more Eovaldi than I want. I'm going to have to adjust that myself because I think I don't think I want to be as heavy Eovaldi as I'm going to wind up getting if I just kind of plug and play here. So right. I'm gonna drop both of these pitchers down, and because of that, I'll probably take a shot with some of the offense in this game. I'll probably up some of the stacks and maybe take the Kansas City side a little bit more than I will the Texas side. But on the whole, I don't think this is going to be a terribly high-owned game for me on both either pitching or hitting.
Yeah, one thing I'm trying to get better at, and I think I am getting better at, is playing the numbers game in DFS, which sounds silly because DFS is, of course, just a numbers game. But, I mean, Steve, I'm seeing Singer at a 1% owned. I mean, like, at that number, right? I don't want him at 15% owned, but if he's 1% owned.
I just don't understand why he's 1% in this spot. Price is down 1,500 against a team that hasn't hit in 3 weeks. I mean, he's going to give you 100 pitches here. He's done well in soft matchups before, including against this Texas team, put up 25 DK their first outing. Like in his soft spots, like he put up 29 on Oakland, pitched well against Detroit, pitched well against the White Sox, pitched well against the White Sox again. I mean, he's a matchup-based starter, and he's against a shit team right now.
You're not the right guy to ask because you made fun of Mangone for playing a 1% Brian Bayo the other day, who got the job done. And you get a cheap pitcher at that low of ownership. Listen, I mean, I don't think pitching is that cut and dry. So I don't have.
To be fair, I made fun of Bayo when he had the bases loaded, nobody out, and then he got out of it in like the first inning.
No, I just, it's tough to come on a show and recommend someone only because they're 1% owned, right? Like that's not what I don't know what people want to hear. They want to hear, a hot take if this guy's going to go off or something like that. But he definitely has a way better chance than 1% of ending up on the optimal tonight. There's no question about it if he's somewhere close to that ownership number. So I don't know if I'll get there on my 5 lineups. Maybe one lineup of Brady Singer for me. We'll move on to Baltimore and the Houston Astros. Up next, we've got Grayson Rodriguez and making, I believe, his MLB debut. Sometimes these guys made an appearance that I missed, but I don't think Jake Bloss has pitched yet at the major league level. Seems like a decent prospect. I honestly don't have too much of a take on him. I wasn't going to play him against the Orioles at 7,200 anyway, so I just didn't dig that far into it on a 10-game slate. He's not in play, I don't think, but the Orioles bats are. And then Grayson Rodriguez has been good this season for sure. He's been, I think, kind of quietly one of the better pitchers in the league. Gets a Houston team, though, that does have Jordan Alvarez back in the lineup, hit a home run yesterday. This is another game where I just don't have much from it. I think it would be the Orioles bats that I'd be most likely to play. Steve, what are you doing with Astros and Orioles?
Yeah, I think the O's are arguably the best stack on the slate here. This Houston kid's not ready for the show. They're calling him up from Double-A. His strikeout rate went way, way down when he went from high A to Double-A. That's like a terrible indicator for future success.
Yeah.
And yeah, he gets thrown into the fire here against the hottest offense in baseball. They've definitely been awesome against right-handed pitching here. A big thing here, too, is all three of Houston's best bullpen arms are going to be unavailable here. They've all pitched the last 2 days. Hader, Presley, and Abreu are all down. So, I hate jumping on a team after they scored 1 million runs the year before or the day before. But, it's an individual thing. They're not actually correlated. So, I love the O's here. I don't play the O's too often either. So, I think that they're just an awesome spot. And then on the other side, I think Grayson's at least interesting. He just doesn't have bad starts. Like, he just gives you 20 every single time, despite the matchup. No one's going to play him here at 9-6. I think there are definitely paths for him to beat guys like Cease and Kirby, who were priced around him, and definitely like Paddock and Rodon, who are just below him here. The projection isn't great because of the matchup, but he's just been so consistently good. Definitely under the radar this season. I'm trying to debate if I want to include him in my 20. I said earlier that I'm trying to cut down on pitching. He's right on the outskirts of being in my pool right now.
Grayson Rodriguez seems to me like an underappreciated pitcher, just in terms of what he does. Like you said, Steve, it's a good start after good start. Again, not the easiest or highest strikeout matchup in the world, and again, his price is high, but 22, 23 DraftKings points could easily get the job done here on this particular slate. So I'm with you on Rodriguez. I'm seeing Saber has him at 5% own. That feels too low to me, honestly. So I think Rodriguez is interesting. Stats, what are you doing with Grayson, Bloss, and the Orioles and Houston Astros here?
So I think Steve, you probably do want to throw one Rodriguez in there at least. I think you want to get a little bit exposure. I'm going to be somewhere around the 10% mark. I've got him. I mean, when you look at the projections, he's not really projected all that high, and like you mentioned, he's been consistently getting you low 20s.
He's a really good pitcher. I mean, I don't think that much is up for debate. He's a very, very good pitcher.
But they're not projecting him, like Saber doesn't have him projected all that high. I've got him projected closer to 17 points, which isn't terrible. I mean, it's not, we're not going to go crazy at that price tag for 17 points. But I agree with you. I think if he gets you into the mid-20s, which is certainly a possibility, it's not the best strikeout matchup. I think he's projected at like 5.5 strikeouts for this game. Bloss projected for 4.3 Ks, and a kid, I don't know how long he's going to go in the game. But that's I agree. I mean, you may want to sprinkle a few of them. If you have 150 lineups, I think maybe you sprinkle some in, but there's certainly no need to play him in anything less than that. But I think Rodriguez if they're talking 5%, which I don't think he's going to be 5%. I mean, I have to think he's going to be over, but I'm going to go 10%. If I'm at the market on that, I'm totally fine with it. I don't think he's going to be that much higher because it's Houston, but he could definitely get us into the mid 20s on this slate. I agree with you with with Baltimore, and just how good this offense has looked. Obviously, they did well for me yesterday, jumping back on a team that scored 17 the night before. Yeah, you hate to do it, but they scored 2. What was it? I forget what they scored against the Yankees 2 games ago, but
yeah,
this offense is
they also lead the league in bombs now,
against,
by a decent margin. I think. Yeah.
And this is it's a team that when they score for you, they're going to do it with a lot of home runs. Going up against a rookie pitcher, I agree with you. I think you want to get over the market on the Baltimore bats. They may be a little higher than maybe the projections are showing. For that reason, I think a lot of people are going to look this way, but I'm going to
know. We have Coors and this game where everyone's going to play Boston. I think this is like the spot that gets overlooked ultimately. I don't know.
It could be. I mean, I don't think it's going to. Obviously, it's not going to be crazy ownership. I was just going to say, like, if you can get yourself in the 12 to 15% stack range, I think that probably gets it done. I think that's enough for me, and I think that's where I'm going to be with Baltimore on this one, and definitely lesser. I'm going to have some Houston stacks as well, but to a lesser degree, I'm going to probably be in on Houston to like the 3 to 5% stacks.
Yeah, brief aside, but one thing I'm trying to get better at is not buying too much into the minor league success of pitchers. Like any major league pitcher would look pretty good if they got to face a worse lineup than the White Sox every single time they pitch, which is pretty much the truth for any minor league pitcher. So, yeah, I'll try to keep that in mind as we go forward on the season. Always trying to get better, right, Steve? That's kind of the point of life in general. Anyway, next game up in Coors Field, we've got Colorado and the Washington Nationals. DJ Herz coming off 13 strikeout game against Miami, which I know I messaged you about this earlier, Steve. I missed that somehow. I don't know. I was watching UFC. I think it was on a Saturday. Clearly was not all that invested in the slate because I didn't know that happened until today. I follow baseball very closely, but I did miss that one. And I don't know what to think about that. I didn't get a chance to go watch that start. It was on my list, but, you only got so many hours in a day. Curious, I know you had them in your cores. You said you paired them with Spencer Arrighetti, who canceled them out. So it didn't ultimately work out. But the DJ Herz call was good. Listen, if you strike out 13 dudes in a game in your third major league start, you're on the radar. That's not an easy thing to do for anybody. It's honestly a limited amount of pitchers who have ever struck out 13 batters in a game, in the whole history of 150 years of Major League Baseball. So I do think DJ Herz is worthy of discussion here. I didn't think he was going to be much coming up. Stacked against the Braves, his first start, that didn't work out. He faced the Mets, who in that first one, which we've been correctly so, all over the Mets against lefty starters. Of course, it didn't work out on Wednesday, but they have been smashing lefties. So maybe you give him a little bit of a pass for that game. He faces the Braves, puts up 12 DraftKings points. I mean, that's pretty good. It's not bad at all. And then he faces the Marlins. He gets a good matchup. And he puts up 43 DraftKings points with 13 strikeouts. And now he gets Coors Field against a Rockies team that sucks. No question about it. Obviously, toughest place to pitch in baseball. But he's 6,300. He can give you 90 pitches. And, I mean, we don't know, really, or at least I don't know how good this guy is. So I've got some interest here. Again, I don't really know how this is going to go, but at 10 to 15% ownership at 6,300, I got to have interest here on DJ Herz. Dakota Hudson isn't a big no thanks for me. I like the Washington Bats here, but that's enough for me. We'll throw it to you, Steve. Coors Field, Nationals, and Rockies. What do you got?
Yeah, hers tough welcome to the major leagues, having to face the Mets and the Braves to start it off. But yeah, had him in the core last Saturday. Obviously, wasn't expecting anything close to that. But he looks good.
They're trying to get away with it, I assume. He can give me 12.
Right. I was hoping Eric Getty would give me the 20 and then get 12 from him, not get the 43 and then negative 11 to get to 32. But yeah, no, the Nats have been hitting on these guys coming up. Mitchell Parker's been great. Hers looks good so far. The Nats are going to make the playoffs. This is crazy.
I've been on the Nats offense a lot, but I might have to jump on these pitchers too a little bit.
Yeah. So, do I think that he's going to be amazing moving forward? No. In the minors, he was a high strikeout, high walk, fly ball guy. So I think he's going to be volatile. I think this is a perfect spot to be on both sides here. I think he's cheap enough where you can play him. But also, the Rockies have been better against left-handed pitching than right-handed pitching. So, fly ball guy who had serious walk issues in the minors. I think that it makes sense to kind of straddle the fence here, which is something that I rarely do. So I'll be on both sides of that. The Nats, I don't really know what to do with the Nats right now. Without Abrams, they've been so bad. And their team total's at 6. It's not the best weather there. I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to keep them in for secondary stacks, 2 and 3 mans with the Nats here. They priced them all up. I don't think we have the lineup yet. I think they're waiting to hear on Abrams. But honestly, undecided on what to do with the Nats. Going to play some Hers and some Rockies.
Stats. I don't know what the markets say on DJ Hers today. If I'm just looking at my underlying metrics, which are my personal main driver of where I go with pitching, it's only been 3 starts for Hers, but man, he looks pretty good. He's throwing a lot of strikes, getting ahead of hitters, generating whiffs, generating chases. Of course, when you strike out 13 in a game in one of your 3 starts, your numbers are going to be pumped up. But I guess I'll just cut myself off there and ask you what you're doing with DJ Hers tonight.
Yeah, I think you have to. I think you have to play her. We've had success here playing pitchers against the Colorado hitters in Colorado. That was the 50K lineup last night or yesterday afternoon. With Stone. Yeah, Stone was in it. Not that he had a great game, but he was in the winner. I think I've had 2 either 50K or 100K winners this year with a Colorado fading Colorado basically in Colorado with their opposing pitcher.
And they're awful. They strike out so much, even in Colorado.
That's the thing. They strike out so much, and you don't really take advantage. I think you had that very good analysis earlier that if you don't hit the ball, it's real tough to take advantage of the ballpark when we were talking about Cincinnati, I think. But yeah, that's been the situation with Colorado. Now they got some runs. They scored. They got their runs this week in a couple of those games against the Dodgers. But I think here, I mean, let's just look at the betting market, right? So you've got they're looking for Hers to get 6.1 strikeouts. That's
a big number at that price.
That's a huge number in less than 5 innings. That's what he's projected to do. I mean, he only had 6 innings thrown last week for the 13 performance. So guys too. One in that few innings projected also a big number. So you hate doing that, or you put guys on base for free in Coors Field. He's going to do both of those things. So he's just going to be a really he's going to have a pitcher who's going to be a ton of points, or they're going to get to him. So I think he's all here in GPPs. Price is still cheap for I think the upside that you get with the strikeouts. I think you have to play him and be over at least what Saber is showing of like the 12-13%, and I think you want to be closer to the 20% mark. Obviously, Dakota Hudson you're not going to touch, and then it goes without saying you like the Washington bats. I think you can play some Colorado bats as well here. Play both sides, even though obviously we all back Colorado. They're still projected 5.4 runs in this game. and you're a young pitcher who, like I said, can get wild, can walk guys, can get himself in trouble. That leads to the big hits, or the big each one of those big hits becomes a lot of runs in one shot. And so that could give us, even like as a secondary stack with the Colorado bats, could be in play here. And no matter how well he pitches, he's not going deep into this game. So that's another factor. So while I do think I want to get over the market on Hurts, I am not going to shy away from Colorado stacks either, but definitely Washington stacks are that's where you have to look. But 5.8 really is not that high on this, for Colorado. 5.8 runs is the projection for Washington. It's not that high. I mean, we see higher run totals, team totals in games that are not in Coors Field. So this is like a typical highest team total on the board type of thing. So if you want to get, I actually don't mind being underweight. I wouldn't totally fade it, but I don't mind in my 150 if I'm under the market on the Washington bats in this game. So I think they're looking, if everyone's in the 15 to 20% range, and you sit around the 10 to 15%, I think you're okay there.
I think you were breaking up there for a while, stats, Steve. It seemed like you were fine. So I think it was stats, and not to call you out, but just I think that, correct me if I'm wrong, stats, but the general consensus, it does seem like you like DJ Hurts here. Is that correct?
Yeah. So I'm sorry, I don't know what you call it. It was great stuff. I promise you, whatever I was saying. But I do like Hurts. Basically, what I was saying was his. He's got a lot of upside and also some downside because of the walk potential. So I think you want to mix in some Colorado stacks as well. And I don't mind getting underweight the Washington stacks, which I think somewhere between 10 to 15% is perfectly fine. I don't want to get too crazy. A lot of times I'll just really go heavy on these Colorado stacks. I don't know if I want to do that with this game today, but I want to have some Colorado exposure. I want to have Washington exposure. Obviously, I'm not playing Hudson. And then Hurts, I think, is a very, he's got a low floor and a high ceiling for a guy who's only going to be projected to throw like 5 innings.
Yeah, in my opinion, Hurts clearly has the biggest gap between the floor and the ceiling. I could easily see -7, or I wouldn't be shocked if Hurts put up 20 plus in this game. Steve, any final thoughts? Coors Field, it's a big game.
Yeah, he's just going to be a wide range of outcome guy. I'm going to be over on him. I'm with stats. I'll probably be under on the Nats bats. I might even only play them as secondaries here, but haven't decided ultimately. I want to see if Abrams is in there.
Makes sense. Let's get to the last 3 games on the slate. Minnesota and Oakland up first. This one, of course, in the – do I still call it the Coliseum? Seems –
yeah, it's like O.co still, I think, right?
Yeah, it seems a little pretentious to call your shithole a Coliseum, but it is what it is. Joey Estes pitching for the A's. Chris Paddock for the Twins. I've mentioned this a lot on Chris Paddock, Steve, where he seems as matchup sensitive as almost anybody. And, of course, I say that as he put up a negative 8.4 against the same Oakland team in his last start. Prior to that, though, he had pretty much done great against the bad teams and poorly against the good teams. I've played him a decent amount. He's mostly served me well. I think I might have logged out of that slate real early when Chris Paddock last pitched, but happens sometimes. I like him here. 8,700 is outside of a matchup, clearly overpriced for his talent. I think, at least to me, he's not near an $8,700 long-term pitcher. But you pitch in Oakland against the A's. I've still got interest there. And I like Joey Estes here. I know we've been talking. I don't think you're as interested as I am. But I've just been chasing these good parks, cheap pricing, low ownership. Played Mitch Spence yesterday. It worked out very well. I see Joey Estes as a very similar play today. Again, will I be surprised if he gets absolutely nuked? Of course not. I still do think he is a good play at 6,500. over to you, Steve, for A's and Twins.
Yeah, it's the pitchers here. Estes got the X late. He's pitched well at home, in his 2 starts at home.
Way better. Yeah.
Yeah, I think Paddock's okay. He does get the huge price bump here, which worries me a bit, right? Like he's been in the 7K range basically all season now. It's up to 8,700 here. But it's the same matchup that everyone rode with Seth Lugo yesterday at 9,500, which was overpriced, and believe Lugo was in the winner. So, Oakland highest strikeout rate in baseball against righties, passing Seattle lately over last month. They haven't hit at all.
It's getting worse too for Oakland. They are kind of becoming the team that everyone thought they were going to be. Where it seems like they're getting worse and worse every week. Yeah,
they're down to 28th in weighted runs created plus, 27th in ISO. Paddock's surface numbers aren't great, 5.25 ERA, but the underlying stuff is good. 3.9 xFIP, 3.9 Sierra. It's a great spot for him to have a nice outing. I will note, if you buy into home road stuff, he's been awesome at Target Field and pretty bad everywhere else. This is a great park for him, though. I expect him to have a good outing, and I think he's an interesting pivot to Rodon, who I think is going to be way higher owned than him here.
Justin Lamas, one-time warning: if you come in here again with a season-long trade recommendation question, it's not going to go as well next time. Stats, your thoughts here on Minnesota and Oakland?
Yeah, I mean, I've got hold on, is my sorry, I thought I had it muted. But I've got Paddock basically rated here worse than the market. So I'm going to be very low on Paddock at 8,700. Let's just take a look at where he is in the betting markets. They're looking for 5.3 Ks here, about 17 outs, just under the six innings, 5.2 hits and 2.3 earned runs. Estes is got a 4.3 strikeout number on him. So I mean, I'm real low on both of these pitchers as far as how much I'm going to have them if I use them at all. I don't even mind a total fade on Paddock, which is, it's tough to do. Good ballpark, obviously, good team to target. I just think we've got some better matchups. So, I mean, I'll have them just because I wound up playing a lot of different players in the 150, but for the most part, it's going to be like, maybe 4 or 5 lineups out of my 150 will have a Paddock in there, which means I would definitely advise on my 20 meds and down, you're not going to have either one of these pitchers. And with that said, I kind of want to take a shot with some Oakland stacks. This is kind of, again, I find these, I'll find these stacks or these teams where when I've got the number on the pitcher just to be way lower than what the overall market is, I want to just kind of, double up on that and not just fade the pitcher, but go ahead and take some stacks with it as well. And sometimes that works well for me. And
it worked well just yesterday.
It did work well yesterday. Yeah. So those things, when they work out, it's going to be a big payday. And so I'll have a decent amount, 5 to 10% on the Oakland stacks in this game.
All right, Paddock is off the list for me. I was trying to find someone.
Yeah, me too.
Paddock is out of here. He's got an 80 ERA on the road. Fuck that guy.
Ship the 40 burger for Paddock coming up now that we're all off of him. But I was kind of trying to get off of him, and stats gave me
same.
Stats. I don't even know if I have your number, but I'll find it, and I will be blaming you when Paddock shows.
If you have it, please delete it.
Milwaukee and San Diego up next. We got Dylan Cease, who's going to be a popular choice tonight, understandably so, I think, against the Milwaukee Brewers, who I've been kind of avoiding playing pitchers against for the most part, maybe overly so, I would say. Obviously, a great place to pitch in San Diego. Dylan Cease, one of the bigger favorites on the night, sitting around minus 160. Brewers projected for just 3.4 runs. I get it with Dylan Cease. I'm stubborn, Steve. You know this. Probably won't go there myself. I'll just keep taking L's. But I don't see myself playing a lot of Cease. I do get the argument for him. Colin Rea, in my opinion, is not in play here. He's been better than I expected or expect to be going forward, but I'm just not paying the $7K price tag against a contact team like the Padres are. I don't see a ton of bats here that I want to play, so I guess a long-winded way of saying going to be under on this game, I think, every which way. What are you doing, Steve, with the Padres and the Brewers?
Yeah, I think Cease is a reasonable play, but I'll probably be under the field on him. I just want to be over on Sale, over on Kirby, over on Grayson.
I just can't play Cease over Sale. I'm sorry. I just can't do it.
Yeah, I think Sale's a much better play here. Cease, he's coming off that shit outing against a red-hot Mets offense. I don't really blame him for that. Returns home in a great pitching environment, obviously. Milwaukee, like you said, has come back down a bit in the split, 28th in ISO against right-handed pitching over the last month. Just not much pop in the split, kind of coinciding with Contreras having a tough couple weeks here offensively. Despite the bad start last time, his estimators are still good. He's got a 4 ERA, but 3.2 Sierra, 3.39 xFIP. I'm seeing 30% right now. I'll probably be about 20% on Cease. He just seems like a safe play here, but I think that there are paths to him getting blown up. Like just the way that he pitches allows for more blow up types of starts, right? Like he gets wild. He does give up power, so I think Sale's a much better play personally.
Sad to see a Steve Boyden stats-esque take of he's going to be 30%, but I'll have 24%. So therefore, I'm beating him. You just hate to see it. But stats, what are you doing with Cease, Rhea in this game?
Well, I am going to be 28%. So, how do you like
no.
that? Yeah.
Did you like that? I just tried to sneak that very direct insult right past you, but it didn't work.
I got it. I mean, I'm sure Steve got it, but yeah, I mean, from the numbers, Cease actually projects a little bit better than Sale does in the betting markets. So, we'll see. I'm probably going to be pretty similar on both of these guys. As far as Ray goes, I'm not going to have any of that. So then it just becomes a matter of what do we do with the hitters in this game. So San Diego, I kind of like being over the market. Yeah.
They just never nuke stats is the problem. It just
they don't nuke, and they don't nuke in that ballpark. So
Jackson Merrill's nuking right now. He's got 6 bombs in the last.
I don't mind one-offs, but
yeah,
it's hard.
I left the lefties in there against Rhea is what I did.
You left the lefties in against Rhea?
Yeah. Sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, it's a tough ballpark. I think I'm going to be let's put it this way. I'll just be very low. I think the only thing I'm going to have, I will have some of the, I'll probably have some of the big bats for Milwaukee just as a little bit of a leverage play, and then pretty light the rest of it on both sides. Not too much. I thought it was going to be a little bit more on San Diego, but it won't be much on San Diego either. So I think just the big bats for Milwaukee for me, and then somewhere around that 30% mark, I'll just probably get to the mark. You think he's going to be higher than what they're saying on Saber? I mean, I think 30% is fine for me. If I'm close to the market, I'm happy with that.
He might end up higher just because he projects better than Sale here.
Yeah, I
actually bumped Sales higher than him, so it gave me more Sale than Cease personally.
Yeah, I'm going to be with Steve and just not taking a very hard stance on that. So I'm just happy to kind of match the market if I can with that one. It's not really what I want to take a stand. But I agree. He can give up some bombs. That's why I want to take some of the bigger bats, at least for Milwaukee.
We go shows, and Nice Kevin oftentimes says 0 comments. But when he says Fernando Tatis is going yard, he does every single time. So I was giving you shit for it. Nice, Kevin.
Add them back into the pool. Add them back in.
I'll be happy with that. I got him in that home. I am winning that home run pool
with Acuna as your number 1 pick.
That's my number 1 pick. I picked up Schneider from Toronto to replace him. I got lucky. He got hurt on Memorial Day, which is our 1 pickup of the year. So I got to make a pickup for Acuna, and he's been doing better than Acuna was. So yeah, I'm winning that league, and I got Tatis, so I'll go for that.
Nice.
I picture nice Kevin just sitting here at his keyboard watching the show, and if we don't mention Tatis, he's going to come in there and say he's going yard, and he always does. So
I love it.
Credit to you. I got to give credit where it's due. He does seem to go every yard every single time you mention him. So Tatis, you're back in. Let's get to the last game of the night. The Battle of Los Angeles. Landon Knack and Pablo Sandoval. I'm not sure these are the two pitchers that these franchises would choose for the Battle of Los Angeles, but they are the pitchers going tonight. Steve, I can't play either of these guys. It would be Knack who I would be more likely to play, but I have very low confidence in him. If he was down at the Trevor Rogers price, then okay, but he's not. He's 7,600, so I don't have any Knack. I don't have any Sandoval, and I don't have that much from this game in general. But Steve, what are you doing with the Dodgers and the Angels?
Yeah, I wish Knack was cheaper too. I think he's playable though. Like he's fully stretched in the minors. They cut his last start short because of the Yamamoto injury. They thought that they might have to bring him up. I talked with Captain about this earlier. He follows the Dodgers closer than anyone in Discord. He's been pretty good. The projection is fine. Projection for about 14. I just wish he was a bit cheaper. I think he might be my last cut here, depending on what stats says. I like the Dodgers here again. Sandoval, super volatile arm. It can go south. Do want to note, we've been harping on stacking against the Rockies because of how bad their pen is. The Angels bullpen has been even worse than the Rockies, far worse than the Rockies over the last month. So even if they don't get to Sandoval, I think the Dodgers could do big time damage against the Angels bullpen. The Dodgers at home are never owned, and they absolutely crush at home. So, if we're playing DJ Hers, we're playing Trevor Rogers and shit, I'm playing some Dodger stacks here. The stacks are cheaper now without Mookie in there. Guys like Rojas, Rojas has been good this year, man. And, he's priced at 3,300. I'm fine with him. Pajas is cheap. They called it Vargas, who is a pinch hit risk, but he's under 3K. I'm going to be well over the field on Dodger stacks here.
Makes sense. Stats, over to you. Dodgers and Angels.
Yeah, Boynton nailed it. I think the Dodgers are going to get overlooked. So I love the stacks here. I've been fading Sandoval for a while. He continually shows up in the betting markets.
He sucks, man.
He just shows up way under where I see a lot of the more popular websites projecting him. So this is I think a really good spot for the Dodgers. I agree with you on a day where I think on paper it looks like there's some better stacks out there. You're taking one of the better lineups, certainly one of the better top of the lineups, and get a shot. Now they're coming out off of Colorado, so maybe a little hangover from the Colorado trip, but I think it's a good spot. I agree. Both pitchers I'm not going to be high on at all, or even play at all. So I think you could pass on both pitchers, and I think the side to go here is the Dodgers. Makes
sense. Yeah, we're all on the same page there. Running overtime here as usual.
No Will Smith. That sucks. We're just seeing that.
That sucks. He didn't hit me a home run yesterday, but Boynton jinxed the Dodgers.
They hit back-to-back bombs. I texted DC. I was like, "Bombs away, baby, let's go!" And I think I
was at the game with Mangone, so I had all Dodgers stacks. We see freaking Will Smith and Freeman, I think, hit back-to-back bombs.
Yep.
And I'm showing Mangone my phone, my screenshots. It's looking like DC is going to win, some fat stacks. And then fucking Boynton texts me. They don't get another hit the rest of the game. And
I had him too, DC, so I shared in the pain.
I was heavy Dodgers yesterday. Still won.
I don't really believe in jinxes, so whatever. Anyway, let's get to the stacks, pitchers, home runs, all that good stuff. We'll start with you, Boynton. Favorite stack, favorite contrarian stack?
My favorite stack is going to be the O's. I think they're just in a spot with a pitcher who's going to be in over his head in the spot. Sabre has under 10%. I think they're going to be higher than that. I think they should be at least. But like we said earlier, there's Coors, there's a Great American Ballpark game, so maybe they do fall onto the radar here. Their prices are down a bit, especially in the middle of the order. And don't leave out Santander. He has been just scorching the ball this month. So I'll go with the O's, and then my contrarian is going to be the Dodgers for all the reasons that Stats and I just said.
Love it. Over to you, Stats, for favorite stack, favorite contrarian stack.
Yeah, I mean, it's tough to go against Washington here. So I mean, they'll be one of my highest owned stacks. I think they obviously in Colorado have a good shot at being the highest total for the day. But I think my contrarian stack, I was going to go with the Dodgers as well, but it was kind of them and Atlanta without Will Smith. I think I'll lean over on Atlanta. I think that's going to be a really good one with absolutely no ownership. So I think that's the way I'm going to go.
Friday Night Braves.
That's it.
Back to the well.
Absolutely. We've done. We said it last. I think we said it last week, and they wound up.
Yeah.
They wound up going off.
Are there like $100 bills down in that well? Because I could pick some up. It's like I've got like DC all over them.
We've played the Braves on Fridays in worse spots than they are tonight.
Don't have to tell me. The Guardians are my favorite stack tonight against Yariel Rodriguez at home. A team I've been on a lot this year. They've served me well in general. I really do like them. And then contrarian stack, I don't love the stadium, but I'll go with the Orioles, a team that is smashing against a pitcher making his MLB debut. I don't have the numbers, but these rookie pitchers in their first game, it seems like half of them just get absolutely blown up. I mean, would you be shocked if it happened to one Jake Bloss? I personally would not be. So I do like the Orioles quite a bit here.
I mentioned earlier too, their top three relievers are down, so that's huge too.
It's a really good spot for the Orioles, no question about it. Let's get to pitchers. Steve, we'll start with you. Your most important pitcher on the slate.
I'll go Chris Sale. I'm going to be Sale overseas here. I think Sale has the biggest or the best chance to give like a 30+ outing on this slate.
Stats, who will be your most important pitcher on the slate?
I think Trevor Rogers is going to wind up being super important for me. So I'm gonna go with Trevor Rogers. There we go.
DC might need a new change of pants.
He was going to be my choice too, but we can't double down on Trevor Rogers. That's just too risky. So we'll go somewhere
diversify that portfolio.
Yeah, exactly. It's like the most milquetoast pick ever, but I think Chris Paddock has a big game against the Oakland A's tonight. Actually, both pitchers in that game, Paddock and Joey Estes. There you go, pitcher stack in Oakland. Steve, back over to you. Who's going yard tonight?
I'll go with Santander. He's been red hot after a slow start to the season. I'll be having Santander on my main lineup tonight.
Join me on this Orioles contrarian stack. Stats, who are you going for with your most home run call tonight, rather?
Ozuna goes deep. Got to stick with the Brave game there.
Can't argue with that whatsoever. I will go back to my man, Josh Naylor. He served me very well this season. Josh Naylor going yard. Steve, final question. Your favorite overall hitter on the entire slate?
Have to go with my guy who owned the Yankees all week. I'll go with Gunnar Henderson, top overall play on the slate.
Dude is an absolute beast. I think the next true superstar, Gunnar Henderson. I love that call. Stats, your favorite hitter on the slate?
Give me Lane Thomas tonight.
Ooh, another one of my favorites. Jeez, you guys are making me very excited to get this slate started.
Turn that camera off quick.
Going 6 to midnight over here. I will go with, you know what? I'm sticking with the tribe. Andres Jimenez keeps it going. Hit a home run yesterday. I think he gets another one tonight. very big on the Guardians this evening. And yeah, that'll do it for this show. No baseball show tomorrow. We do take Saturday off here in the RPS streets for baseball, but we do, of course, have MMA, golf, probably some cars racing. I don't know.
We have the Euros going on for soccer. It's been
yes,
fun.
Euros, yes. And Stats loves his car race. So I'm sure we got all that good stuff going on over at RPS. We appreciate all you guys watching, as always. Really do love the community here. Glad you're here. And yeah, if you haven't hit the like button in this hour and 20 minutes that we've been here, do it now. We'll be back Sunday morning. That'll do it for me, for Steve Boyden, for StatSational. We're out of here.